For my 30th birthday, my family flew to Hawaii without telling me. I found out from my mom's post, perfect trip with the people who matter. That same night, I just made one quiet move. 2 weeks later, my dad was calling nonstop, my mom was crying, and my sister was begging me to undo it. My family forgot I existed on the one birthday that actually mattered to me. Not forgot like, oops, we'll call you tomorrow. Forgot like, boarded a plane to Maui, checked into a beachfront resort, posted matching sunset photos, and my mom captioned it, and I quote, perfect trip with the people who matter most. I was sitting on my couch in Columbus, Ohio, eating leftover pad thai in a t-shirt I'd slept in for 2 days. 30 years old. That was my welcome to a new decade. But here's the thing you need to know before I go any further. I was the one paying for the roof over my sister's head. And she was right there in that photo, toes in the sand, holding a piña colada. So yeah, I made a decision that night. One quiet little decision. And honestly, changed everything. Let me back up. My name's Jolene. I know, like the Dolly Parton song. Trust me, I've heard every joke. I grew up outside of Dayton, Ohio, middle class, nothing fancy. My dad, Russell, worked at a manufacturing plant for 20-something years. My mom, Diane, was a receptionist at a dentist's office. And then there's my older sister, Bridget. 2 years older. The golden child. The one who could do absolutely no wrong. You know that kid in the family who gets praised for breathing? That was Bridget. Me. I was the difficult one. Not because I did anything wild. I just had opinions. I asked questions. I didn't smile and nod when something felt unfair. Apparently in my family that made me the problem. Growing up, Bridget got the bigger bedroom. Bridget got the newer car when she turned 16. I got Bridget's old one with a dent in the bumper and a passenger window that didn't roll down. Bridget's college was paid for. Hey, Jolene, you're so independent, you'll figure it out. That was my mom's exact words. I figured it out, all right. I took out loans, worked 2 jobs through school, graduated with a degree in accounting and about $40,000 in debt. Bridget got a communications degree, barely used it, married a guy named Craig at 24, and moved into a house they couldn't actually afford. And that's where this story really starts. About 3 years before my 30th birthday, Bridget and Craig hit a rough patch. Craig lost his job. Then he got another one that paid less. Then Bridget called me crying, saying they were 2 months behind on the mortgage and might lose the house. And what did I do? Honestly, tell me, what would you have done? I started paying their mortgage. Yeah, me. The one with student loans. The one nobody helped. I set up an automatic transfer every single month, $1,500 straight to their mortgage company. Bridget told me it would just be for a few months. That was 3 years ago. 3 years. I never missed a payment. Not once. And you want to know the kicker? My parents didn't even know. Bridget asked me. No, she begged me. Not to tell them because she didn't want to look like she couldn't handle her life. So I kept it quiet. Like I always did. Because that's the role I played in this family. Jolene handles it. Jolene doesn't complain. Jolene's fine. My Nana May was the only person who saw through it. She's my dad's mom, 81 years old. Lives in a little house in Springfield with 2 cats and 0 patience for nonsense. She'd call me every Sunday and say things like, baby girl, you give too much of yourself to people who don't check if you're hungry. I used to laugh it off. But she was right. She was always right. So let me get to the birthday. I don't make a big deal out of birthdays usually. But 30 felt different. Felt like a milestone, you know? I thought maybe, just maybe, my family would do something. Even small. A dinner. A card. A phone call before noon. My friend at work asked me what my plans were and I said, I think my family's planning something. I actually believed that. The morning of my birthday I woke up to 0 texts from my family. Nothing from Bridget. Nothing from my mom. My dad, nothing. I told myself they were probably planning a surprise. Maybe they'd call later. Maybe there was a group chat I wasn't seeing. By 2 in the afternoon, still nothing. I texted my mom. Just a casual, hey, what are you up to today? She replied 4 hours later, busy day. Talk soon. Busy day. On my birthday. That night I opened Instagram. And there was. My mom had posted a carousel. 5 photos. Crystal blue water, a luau dinner, the 4 of them, my mom, my dad, Bridget and Craig, standing on a balcony overlooking the ocean. Big smiles. Flower lays. The caption read, spontaneous family trip to paradise. Nothing beats being surrounded by the people who matter most. #blessed, #Maui magic, #family first. Family first. I stared at that screen until it went blurry. And I'm not going to lie to you, that was the moment something inside me just shifted. Like a switch flipped. Not rage exactly. Something colder. Something quieter. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone to scream. I set my phone down. I sat there in the dark for maybe 10 minutes just thinking. And then I opened my banking app. I scrolled to the automatic transfer. The one I'd been making for 3 years. $1,500 a month to Bridget's mortgage. $54,000 total. $54,000 from the family member who apparently didn't matter enough to be invited to Hawaii. I hovered over the cancel button for about 5 seconds. Then I pressed it. No dramatic speech. No warning. No confrontation. Just, done. I closed the app, turned off my phone, and honestly, I slept better that night than I had in months. Now you might be thinking, Jolene, that's cold. Maybe it was. But let me ask you this. If you'd spent 3 years quietly keeping someone's house afloat and they couldn't even remember your birthday, what would you have done? Seriously, think about it. Because what happened after that? It got so much worse before it got better. And I had no idea just how fast everything would unravel. My Nana May called me the next morning, by the way. She was the only one. She sang me happy birthday, off-key with her cats meowing in the background. And then she said, "Did those fools remember?" I told her about the Hawaii Post. She went quiet for a second, then she said, "Jolene, sometimes the trash takes itself to the beach." I laughed so hard I almost spit out my coffee. God, I love that woman. But here's the thing. Canceling that payment was only the beginning. Because what I didn't know yet was just how quickly everything would start falling apart for Bridget. And how fast my phone would start blowing up. And how my mom, the same woman who posted about the people who matter, would soon be sobbing on my voicemail, saying she didn't understand what went wrong. "Well, you'll understand, Mom. Very soon." So where was I? Right. I just canceled the payment, slept like a baby, and my Nana May had already delivered the best line of the year. But the next 2 weeks. Buckle up, because this is where things got interesting. For the first few days after my birthday, nothing happened. Radio silence from my family. No belated birthday text. No, "Hey, sorry we forgot." Absolutely nothing. They came back from Hawaii. I know because Bridget posted a photo at the airport with the caption, "Back to reality," with a sad face emoji, and still not a single word to me. It was like I didn't exist. And honestly, for the first time I was okay with that. I went to work. I came home. I watched terrible reality TV. I called Nana May. I started putting that $1,500 toward my own student loans instead. You know what that felt like? Freedom. Actual, tangible freedom. For 3 years I'd been draining myself dry for someone who didn't even think to send me a birthday text, and now that money was mine again. I started breathing differently. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. Can you even imagine what it feels like to suddenly have that weight off your shoulders? Like you've been carrying someone else's furniture up a staircase for years and you finally just set it down. But I knew the clock was ticking. Bridget's mortgage payment was due on the 1st of every month. I'd canceled my transfer on October 17th, my birthday. So the next payment would have been November 1st. That meant Bridget had about 2 weeks before she'd notice the money didn't show up. And I have to be honest with you, part of me felt nervous. Not guilty. Nervous. Because I knew what was coming and I knew it was going to be ugly. November 1st came and went. I marked it in my head but didn't say anything. Didn't reach out. Just waited. November 4th my phone buzzed. Text from Bridget. First time she contacted me in almost 3 weeks. You want to know what it said? Not, "Happy belated birthday." Not, "Sorry we went to Hawaii without you." It said, "Hey, did you forget to send the payment this month? Can you check?" That's it. That's the text. Did I forget? Like I was her employee. Like I was some automatic service that malfunctioned. No please. No thank you. No acknowledgement that this money had been coming out of my pocket, not hers, for 3 straight years. I stared at that text for a long time. And I typed back 3 words, "I didn't forget." Then I put my phone on silent and made myself dinner. Pasta with garlic bread. It was delicious, by the way. Now here's what I found out later, because eventually all of this came out. Bridget read my message and immediately panicked. She showed it to Craig and Craig said, "What does that mean?" Bridget tried calling me that night. Twice. I didn't answer. She texted again. "Jolene, what do you mean you didn't forget? Call me back." I didn't call her back. Let me ask you something. Do you think she deserved an explanation at that point? Because I genuinely want to know what you think. Part of me felt like I owed her a conversation. But the other part, the part that had been ignored and overlooked for 30 years, said no. Let her sit with it. By November 7th, Bridget must have told our parents something, because suddenly my dad was calling. Russell, the man who had flown to Hawaii on my birthday without a word, was now calling me twice a day. I let every single call go to voicemail. The first message was casual. "Hey Joe, your sister said there might be some mix-up with a payment. Give me a call when you get a chance." That's what Bridget told them. A mix-up. The second voicemail 2 days later was less casual. "Jolene, this is your father. We need to talk." Please call me back. This is serious. Serious. Interesting word choice, Dad. You know what else was serious? Your daughter's 30th birthday. But okay. By November 10th, my mom got involved. And let me tell you, when Diane enters the chat, it's a whole production. She didn't just call. She left a voicemail that was 4 minutes long. 4 minutes. She started out calm, doing that thing she does where she pretends she's being reasonable. Sweetheart, I don't know what's going on, but Bridget is very upset and I think there's been a misunderstanding. Then somewhere around minute 2 her voice started cracking. I just don't understand why you do this to your sister. She depends on that money, Jolene. You know she depends on it. And then, and this is the part that actually made my jaw drop, she said, after everything this family has done for you, I would think you'd show a little more gratitude. Gratitude. I played that voicemail twice because I honestly thought I'd misheard. Gratitude for what, Mom? For not inviting me to Hawaii? For making me pay my own way through college while Bridget got a free ride? For treating me like the family afterthought my entire life? I should be grateful. I called Nana May that night. I was shaking a little, not gonna lie. Not from anger. From that specific kind of hurt that only your own mother can cause. You know the kind. When someone who's supposed to love you unconditionally basically tells you that you don't give enough. Nana May listened to the whole thing. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said, Jolene, baby, you have been the bank, the backbone, and the band-aid for that family, and they didn't even save you a seat at the table. You don't owe them gratitude. They owe you an apology. Then she said, and if your mama calls me, I'll tell her myself. I laughed even though I was crying. That's Nana May for you. 81 years old and still the only person in my family who makes sense. By the middle of November, things escalated fast. Bridget and Craig had missed the mortgage payment. The mortgage company sent a late notice. Craig apparently tried to scramble together the money, but they were short. Way short. Turns out they'd been living right at the edge of their budget this whole time, even with my $1,500. Without it, they were drowning. And that's when Bridget finally sent me the text that changed the whole tone of everything. It was long. Like scroll down long. She started with, I don't know why you're doing this to me. She went on about how stressed she was, how Craig wasn't sleeping, how they might get a second late notice. She talked about how unfair it was that I would spring this on her without warning. She said she felt betrayed. She felt betrayed. I read that text sitting on my kitchen floor because honestly my legs just gave out a little. Not because I felt bad about the money, but because after everything, the years of being second place, the birthday, Hawaii, the complete silence. My sister's first real extended communication with me in weeks was about what I was doing to her. Not what she'd done to me. Not one word about my birthday. Not one mention of the trip. Not one, I'm sorry. Just what I was taking away from her. I didn't respond to that text. Not right away. I needed to think. Because here's the thing about revenge. Even when it's justified, it sits heavy sometimes. I wasn't enjoying watching Bridget panic. That's not who I am. But I also wasn't going to keep being the invisible safety net for people who only remembered I existed when they needed something. So I did something I maybe should have done a long time ago. I wrote a letter. Not a text. Not a voicemail. An actual letter on paper in my own handwriting. And I mailed it to my parents' house, addressed to all three of them, Mom, Dad, and Bridget. What did I write in it? Well, I'll tell you. But first let me just say, that letter was the hardest thing I've ever written. And also the most honest. Because I put everything in it. 30 years of everything. And once they read it, nothing in my family was ever the same. I'm getting to the good part, I promise. And by good, I mean the part where they finally had to see me. So the letter. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that went cold twice before I finished writing. I didn't plan what I was going to say. I just started, and once I started, it was like 30 years of words poured out of a faucet I didn't know how to turn off. I told them everything. I told them about paying Bridget's mortgage for 3 years. $54,000. I wrote the number out so they could really see it. I told them how Bridget had begged me to keep it secret because she didn't want to look bad. I told them about every birthday that got overlooked, every achievement that got shrugged off, every time Bridget was celebrated for something ordinary while I was ignored for something extraordinary. I wrote about graduating with honors while working 2 jobs and how nobody came to my ceremony because Bridget had a brunch that same weekend. A brunch. And then I wrote about Hawaii. I told them that finding out about that trip from an Instagram post was the loneliest moment of my entire life. That seeing my mom's caption about the people who matter made me feel like I'd been voted out of my own family. That I sat in the dark on my 30th birthday alone and realized that I had spent years earning love that was being given to someone else for free. I ended the letter with this: I don't hate any of you. I just finally ran out of reasons to keep pretending that the way you treat me is okay. The mortgage payments are done. Not because I want Bridget to suffer, but because I need to stop suffering for people who don't even notice. When you're ready to see me, really see me, you know where I am. I signed it, sealed it, drove to the post office and mailed it before I could change my mind. My hands were shaking the whole time. Have you ever done something that you knew was right but it still terrified you? That's exactly what it felt like. Nana May called me that evening like she had some kind of sixth sense. I told her about the letter and she went quiet for a few seconds. Then she said, "You know what you just did, baby girl? You finally stopped whispering and started talking. And they're gonna hear you whether they want to or not." The letter arrived on a Tuesday. I know because my dad called me 11 minutes after the mail usually comes. 11 minutes. This time I picked up. His voice sounded different. Not angry. Not that fake calm thing he does when he's annoyed. He sounded taken. He said, "Jolene, I just read your letter." Long pause. "Is all of this true? You've been paying Bridget's mortgage." I said, "Yes, Dad. For 3 years." Another pause. Then he said something that genuinely caught me off guard. He said, "Why didn't you tell us?" And I said, "Because Bridget asked me not to. And because I thought maybe if I helped enough you guys would eventually just notice me on your own." He didn't say anything for about 10 seconds. 10 real seconds of silence. When you're on the phone with your father and he goes quiet like that, those seconds feel like hours. Then I heard him clear his throat and his voice cracked a little when he said, "I didn't know, Joe. I swear I didn't know." Now, do I believe he didn't know about the mortgage? Yes, actually, I do. Bridget was very careful about keeping that secret. But did he not know that I was being sidelined my whole life? Come on. He was there. He saw it. He just didn't think it was a big deal. And that might be worse, honestly. That same night my mom called. And this conversation, I want you to really picture this, was nothing like I expected. She was crying before she even said hello. Full-on sobbing. She said, "Jolene, I read your letter and I can't stop crying." Part of me wanted to comfort her because that's what I've always done, right? Fix everyone's feelings. But I didn't. I just waited. She said, "I didn't realize. I didn't think." And then she stopped and started over. "The Hawaii trip, your father and I, we thought you were busy with work. Bridget said you told her you couldn't travel in October." I felt my stomach drop. "Mom, Bridget never asked me. Nobody asked me. Nobody even told me you were going." Dead silence. "That's not. Bridget said she talked to you," my mom whispered. "She didn't, Mom. I found out from your Instagram post. On my birthday. Alone." I could hear my mom processing this. You could practically hear the gears turning. All those years of Bridget said this, and Bridget told us that, suddenly rearranging themselves in her head. And I know this is heavy, but do you think my mom genuinely didn't know? Or do you think on some level she just chose to believe whatever was easiest? I still go back and forth on that. 2 days later Bridget called me. And this is the conversation I'd been bracing myself for. She started off defensive. Classic Bridget. "Jolene, I don't know why you had to drag Mom and Dad into this. This was between us." I almost laughed. Between us? She literally brought our parents to Hawaii and left me behind, but the mortgage situation is between us? I stayed calm. I don't know how, but I did. I said, "Bridget, did you tell Mom and Dad that I said I couldn't come to Hawaii?" Silence. "Bridget, did you lie to them about asking me?" More silence. Then very quietly she said, "I didn't think it was that big of a deal." There was the sentence that had defined my entire life in this family. Nothing about Jolene was ever a big deal. Not my feelings, not my birthday, not $54,000, not being lied about. None of it. I said, "It was a big deal to me, Bridget. It's always been a big deal to me. You just never bothered to check." She started crying then. And I want to be real with you, I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. So tired. 30 years of tired. But then something happened that I wasn't expecting. Bridget said through her tears, "You're right. You're right, and I hate that you're right because that means I've been awful to you and I don't know how to fix it." That was the first honest thing my sister had said to me in maybe a decade. And it cracked something open. Not forgiveness, not yet. But a door. Just a crack. Over the next few weeks, things shifted in ways I couldn't have predicted. My dad drove to Columbus, 3 hours from Dayton, just to take me to dinner. Just the two of us. He didn't make excuses. He sat across from me at a little Italian restaurant and said, "I failed you, Joe. I got comfortable and I stopped paying attention and you paid the price for that. I'm sorry." And then this man, my dad who I'd seen cry maybe twice in my entire life, teared up over his lasagna. I reached across the table and held his hand and we just sat like that for a minute. My mom took longer. He's stubborn, I get it from her honestly. But she started calling me every few days. Not to talk about Bridget. Just to talk to me. About my job, my apartment, what I was watching on TV. Small things. But for us, those small things were everything. About a month after the letter, she said on the phone, "I've been thinking a lot about what you wrote. About how I made you feel invisible. I don't have a good excuse, Jolene. I just want to do better. Will you let me try?" I said yes. Because what else do you say when your mom finally asks to see you? And Bridget. Oh, Bridget. She and Craig scraped together the mortgage payment. Late with a penalty, but they made it. He got a part-time job. Craig picked up extra shifts. They figured it out. Because here's the thing, they were always capable of figuring it out. They just didn't have to because I was there. Bridget wrote me a letter back. A real one, handwritten just like mine. She apologized for lying about Hawaii. She apologized for taking the money without appreciating it. She apologized for years of things I thought she'd never even noticed. And at the end she wrote, "I don't deserve you as a sister. But I want to try to become someone who does." Did I cry? Obviously. I'm not made of stone. We're not perfect now. I want to be honest about that. It's not like one letter and a few hard conversations erase 30 years overnight. But we're trying. My family sees me now. For the first time they actually see me. We had Thanksgiving together, at Nana Mae's house because she insisted. She made her sweet potato pie and watched all of us with this look on her face like she'd been waiting for this exact moment for years. At one point she leaned over to me and whispered, "See, baby girl? Sometimes you gotta shake the tree to find out who's willing to catch what falls." My dad carved the turkey. My mom set the table and put me next to her. Bridget brought wine and gave a little toast that made everyone cry. He said, "To Jolene, the strongest person at this table and probably in all of Ohio. I'm sorry it took me this long to say it." Craig raised his glass. Nana Mae said, "Amen." And I sat there surrounded by my family, my real, messy, imperfect, finally honest family, and for the first time in 30 years I felt like I mattered. So that's my story. It's not glamorous. There's no dramatic courtroom scene or big public blow-up. It's just a woman who got tired of being invisible and did one quiet thing that made the people she loved finally wake up. If you've ever felt like the person in your family who gives everything and gets nothing back, I see you. I really do. And I'm not saying you should go cancel someone's mortgage payment tomorrow. But I am saying that you deserve to take up space. You deserve to be remembered. You deserve a seat at the table, not just the bill. Nana Mae says it better than I ever could. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you sure can't pour for people who won't even hand you a glass. So yeah, that's it. That's the whole thing. If this story meant something to you, I'd love it if you hit that like button. It really does help more people hear stories like this. And if something in here made you think or reminded you of your own family or even just made you mad, share that in the comments. I read everything. Seriously, every single comment. And if there's something you didn't like or something you'd do differently, tell me that too. I'm not here for perfection. I'm just here for honesty. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for making me feel a little less alone in all of this. It means more than you know.